you've got all of the muscles coming up to the face in holographic breathing and causing that movement through the face, and that goes back into the sphenoid area, and that pulls the sphenoid down and forwards. Then you've got all of the muscles coming up into the back of the head, and to balance it, that is pulling down and back. Where the focal point is, it's all balancing on the spine. So the front is pulling down, and the fulcrum is where it's connecting to the condyles of the occiput. So it's opening down that way, it's opening down that way, and what it's sitting on is the spine. So that is what it's bowing around. In craniosacral therapy, it just has the sphenoid opens, and I'll show you that in more detail. So here we have it as part of the cranium. I'm going to take the sides of the cranium off. So I know we've got quite a few cranial people here, and new cranial people, so I haven't showed this, so I'm just going to show this. Now, this is the occiput, this is the sphenoid. Now, normally the sphenoid will be from that line up to there, but for me in holographic breathing, I've called this whole area the sphenoid from where it joins here. And the reason that was called the sphenoid is there is a junction here. In adults over the age of 13 and 14, this is one solid bone. In every skull, probably every skull in the whole world, other than mine, that is cut through there. And that top bit is called the sphenoid, then this red bit is part of the occiput here. But for holographic breathing, one, the energies change here, but also the movement is this: breathing in, this is pulling down forwards, breathing out, so it's breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Now, I pulled my microphone off a minute. So what we're going to work with today, we are going to work with that as open, but we're going to open with all of the junctions that are open as a baby. So this is a joint as a baby, and it isn't the same as the other joints in the cranium. They become sutures that are movable. But this as a baby is cartilage and bone, and over a period of time it ossifies. But also so is this, from here to here. This is a joint that ossifies over the first year. This is the major joint. This is really wide open, and this ossifies over the first 6 years. And this gives it just hugely more potential to breathe. Now, for me, how I experience it, as all of the muscles through the front of the body are pulling down through the face, this movement in holographic breathing connects it to the sphenoid, so that pulls down. And rather than it just breaking here, it's a bowing. It's not like, oh, the joints open and their bones move freely. In holographic breathing, there's more attention through the bones, and the bones bend and move as well as the joints. And this whole thing bows down on the in-breath and lifts up on the out-breath. But in birth, where have I put the vertebrae? Oh, there's the vertebrae. Oops. So here we have it up high. That is normally the sphenoid, but of course, so you've got this one joint here, you've got another joint across there, and you've got another joint across there. And what is it is in holographic breathing, this central place. See how that matches? Can you see how that central area matches with the vertebrae? That stays balanced and level because it's sitting directly on the spine. Because it's pulling down at the front and pulling down at the back, you get this pull through the whole body, and what happens is the spine shortens on the in-breath and the spine lengthens on the out-breath. Breathing in, breathing out. And this is, for me, what grows the vertebrae in the baby in the womb, because bones need pressure to grow. So that central pivot is stable, and then from there the occiput is pulling down, and then the esophagus, the top of the esophagus, is joining from here, and as the diaphragm pulls down, this is pulling down, and then as the face opens in holographic breathing, that opens up through that joint, so you can breathe with the cranial base, with the occiput, then this middle one stable, and then this one pulling down, and then you add holographic breathing, and the face joins in to that whole momentum. I'll show you from, because you can see the lines a bit better. There they are from the inside, those three junctions, and you end up with two bones here, one bone here, another bone here, and then the sphenoid here. These aren't separate as babies, but they've got cartilage between them that slowly ossifies. This main one, this at birth, this is the finest one, which is normally thought for the sphenoid is the thinnest one. This one's a bit bigger. This is massive. This is really open at birth. So we're going to work with that to feel the motion in the cranial base. So I might be throwing people who haven't worked with, who are new and haven't worked with movement in this way before, but I'm going to go into it as slowly as possible to try not to leave people behind. I know it's different to cranial sacral therapy and cranial osteopathy, but it's a physical thing, and in reality this is a solid physical bone in an adult. It does not bend here. This is probably one of the thickest points, is where that line is. If you look from the side, it's quite thick there. So in reality, in an adult, that is one solid bone, and with the holographic breathing, it's pulling like this, breathing in, breathing out, and you get a torsion through the bones. And the bones in a dead body are hard and brittle. The bones in a live body are flexible, and be a tiny motion, but we still can feel that, and that gives us the motion through the cranial base, through the whole and the sides of the cranial base, and then through the whole cranium in different ways. And the beauty of the esophagus is it rises up and makes a direct connection from the diaphragm to this first section here. Now with the spine, so here we have a spine, cranium on top of the spine, like that. So this is pulling down this way, and this is pulling down, so it's pulling down onto the spine, but it's not solid. The spine shortens on the in-breath with it, but not as far. There's still that pressure, but it condenses. For me, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So it's not just going straight into this point here. It's that pressure is working down through the whole spine. So in one way, it is pushing up because it's pulling down onto the spine, which is the same as the spine pushing up into it. But because all of the muscles through the whole back, between every vertebrae, down through the quadratus muscles at the bottom, they're all tightening on the in-breath, and they pull all these vertebrae together. So it's not just this pulling down, all of the muscles are tightening to pull the vertebrae together. So the spine doesn't lengthen the opposite way round. It shortens, but it doesn't shorten as far, because this is just a straight pull down in each direction. That will pull the spine down, but also within each vertebrae it's pulling close together. So rather than you getting this massive pressure where the top vertebrae is pushing into the spine, it cushions it. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And this gentle pressure through the vertebrae with every breath, as that pressure's there, they fight to come straight, because if they're a bit out of a line and that pressure comes, it will push them more out of a line. So as the pressure comes, they all balance to try and come straight. And there are muscles, as they pull them together, they're also pulling them straight. So this straightens. You see, this changes your perception of the breath. Oh, everything opens on the in-breath. Everything closes on the out-breath. I'm showing you a very clear way. Everything shortens on the in-breath and everything lengthens on the out-breath, as well as the expansion. Because we're going through this central column, which is the shortening, we're very much experiencing that. But from the lungs, this may be shortening. You don't feel the shortening, you just feel an expansion in all directions. There's an overall movement to holographic breathing that will align your spine, that will work through your whole body, that will work through the cranium with every breath. But as we look at the different parts of the jigsaw puzzle, it will bring more awareness to that particular part, and it can give you an overall body of health that you don't have from. And I know no other breath work where you can actually feel, I may be wrong, I'll take that back, I don't know, but there may be, where you can feel this shortening. And in our normal breath, that is edited out. You don't feel the shortening because it will intrude in it. But in holographic breathing, you can feel the tension, you can exercise your whole spine, you can go back to birth and in the womb. You've got to remember, in the womb and after birth, everything is growing so quickly, aligning, healing. You're getting just billions of stem cells doing their job. Everything is soft. Brings you back to that point. Brings you back to your original matrix that everything is being formed out of. So there's a huge potential in health in that. So there is this overall motion, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out within the spine. But also between all of the vertebrae, you've got the intercostal muscles, plus you've got the muscles running the length of the spine. And I'll show this little top bit so you can see the distance from the spine there. As those muscles tighten, breathing in, see it lengthening at the top, breathing out. It all integrates together. Breathing. Now when I show that, I can feel the energy in the group changing it, because it changes from an expansion, just an expansion, to people also taking on the quality of what happens in the spine. Breathing in, breathing out. It brings a different quality of the breath just looking at that. So there is this pressure. This is important, because if you just feel this pulling down this way, as opening the skull like that, you get this big pressure into between the atlas vertebrae and the cranial base, which can exacerbate anything in that area. Or if you just feel it in the neck, you feel it into the vertebrae of the neck. But if you get the picture of it, it's a whole spinal thing that's cushioning, breathing in, breathing out, the whole length of the spine. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, from the pelvic floor to the cranial floor, the diaphragm's pulling down to the pelvic floor, and the pelvic floor is holding that. There's another thing that is taught differently in holographic breathing. The pelvic floor rises on the in-breath towards the diaphragm is what happens in holographic breathing. They both extend apart, so you can get a pull from the pelvic floor up to the cranial base, and directly from the diaphragm to this part, what I call the first part of the sphenoid. You've got the esophagus running down the spine this way. You've got the muscles from the occiput running down the spine that way. The diaphragm pulls on both because it goes around the spine. It connects to the spine from underneath, but it goes around the spine, so the back part of the diaphragm is rising up and down. So there's expansion, but also there's a contraction, which is profound because it's the very center of the breath. Everything expands out of that movement. Use holographic breathing. You'll be able to experience that. I don't know about other things. I don't really do anything else, but I haven't experienced it in other things. So you can use this to find a whole different dimension of the breath that you have not experienced before. It is complicated and it is hard work. It isn't easy cookies, and I think that may put people off. It isn't the same as cranial work. A lot of it's the same. In cranial work, Sutherland was clear. Breathing in, breathing out with the spine. The whole body shortens on the in-breath and the whole body lengthens on. So that a lot of things are similar.